Here we are for your Ride4Rufiji moment number 47. This is the ocean right behind me. We're on a boat for the second time this week and the third time in this Ride4Rufiji. The first time was when we left the island of Victoria, British Columbia. Then earlier this week when we left PEI. And now we're going from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia to Newfoundland. We've conquered Nova Scotia and we're on to our final province. And you can see behind me right here, let's see if, oh, you can definitely see that. There is Sarah, and there's Mr. Lukumai right there, waiting in the shelter of the cabin of this big beast of a boat. And I'm outside. It's a little bit rainy out here, but it seems like it's always a little bit rainy on the East Coast. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful on the East Coast, and it is wet. There's my family. I love them so much. Well, for your Ride4Rufiji moment, we are in Matthew chapter 20. And Jesus begins with a parable. He tells a story of a man who owns a vineyard, and he hires a bunch of workers and says, for your day's work, I will give you 1 day's wages, 1 denarius. So these men set off to work in the owner's vineyard. Now the owner of this vineyard, he goes out into the town at 9 o'clock that same day, 9 in the morning, and he finds other men in the city without work. So he tells them, you too, you go and work in my vineyard and I will pay you what is fair. At 12 o'clock, noon, the owner of the vineyard, he goes and finds more men, sends them into his field, and at 3 o'clock he does the same. And at 5 o'clock, near the end of the workday, the owner of the vineyard, he goes back into town and he finds men who have been standing around all day, and he says, why are you still in town? And they replied to the owner, because nobody gave us a job, nobody hired us. And he said, well, go into my vineyard and work. Now the end of the workday came, 6 o'clock, and he calls all the men to himself, and he decides that he's going to pay the people who started work last first. So he calls the men who started at 5 o'clock, and he pays them 1 denarius. He calls the people who started to work at 3 o'clock and he pays them 1 denarius. The people who started work at 12 o'clock, 1 denarius. The people who started work at 9 o'clock, 1 denarius. And the people who started work at the very start of the day as the dawn was breaking, they figure, well, if he's paying these people who barely did any work today a full denarius, imagine how much he's going to pay us. But he calls the men who started with him at the start of the day, he calls them together, and he pays them 1 denarius. Well, they grumble, they get upset, they call him unfair, and he says, well, excuse me, how have I wronged you? They say, these men who started at 5 o'clock, they only worked for 1 hour. We've been toiling under the sun for you the entire day. And he said, wait a minute, did we not agree? Did we not agree that I would pay you 1 denarius? How have I cheated you? Do I not have the right to act generously with my money? And Jesus explains, so it is with the Father. The first will be last, and the last will be first. This is the kingdom of heaven. Well, later on, the sons of the mother of the sons of Zebedee, she goes to Jesus and she asks a special request that her one son, John, would sit on the left of Jesus, and her other, James, would sit on the right in heaven, in paradise. And Jesus asks these sons of Zebedee, these sons of thunder, are you able to drink the same cup as I'm about to drink? And eagerly and keenly, yes, Jesus, we can. Now the word gets back to the other disciples that the sons of Zebedee, the sons of thunder, have sicked their mother on Jesus, asked this special request. A little bit embarrassing if you ask me, but she asked this request, and the sons of Zebedee were apparently okay with it, but the rest of the disciples, they were not. And then Jesus called the men together because they were clearly having some issues, some internal conflicts, and he said, listen, have you not understood the first parable I just taught you today of the kingdom of heaven, the first being last and the last being first? For those of you who want to be first, you will have to be a servant to the rest of the people. just as the Son of Man, Jesus, just as I came, not to be an authority to lord it over the rest of you, as the rest of the world does. You see, God's economy is so much different than the economy of the world, of people who are scratching and clawing at each other, trampling on each other to get to the top. No, if you want to be the top in the kingdom of heaven, you must start at the bottom. You must, and not in order to gain and to climb your way to the top. No, the first will be last, and the last will be first. The first is the servant of all. The Son of Man did not come to lord it over everyone, but to be a servant, and to serve, and to ultimately to be obedient, even to the point of death. And as we look closer at the person of Jesus, we see something in Matthew 20, amazing, where he predicts to the very detail what is about to happen to him. He says to his disciples in the middle of chapter 20 that they're about to go to Jerusalem, and he will be handed over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and they're going to take him, they're going to mock him, flog him, give him to the Gentiles who are going to crucify him. He's going to die, and then be raised again, raised to life in 3 days. This man Jesus, he's more than a typical man. He's more than an ordinary man. To have such great insight, to know to the very detail what's about to happen to him, and to be, and in having this knowledge, to be obedient to the will of the Father, the one who gave him this knowledge, that he would actually be obedient and carry out this great suffering that is about to come upon him. What an amazing love! What a great love that God demonstrated through His Son. That God loved the world so much that He sent His Son. If you want to be first in the kingdom of heaven, you must be a servant to all. This is your Ride4Rufiji moment, number 47.